These are the top 10 most badass Captain America, Steve Rogers scenes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. 1. Loki vs. Captain America Avengers 2012. Loki is discovered in the German city of Stuttgart. He assaults a guy called Heinrich Schaefer before scaring a Gala Throng, creating a distraction so that the brainwashed Barton may obtain iridium to stabilize the Tesseract. When Romanoff and Rodgers come to seize Loki, they engage in an equal combat until Stark intervenes, forcing Loki to surrender. After apprehending him, they board a Quinjet and begin their journey back to the helicarrier. A lightning storm occurs. 2. Thor vs. Captain America. Stark flies in and fights Thor, engaging him in a fight that destroys a section of the forest. Before any additional harm can be done, Rodgers steps in and attempts to convince Thor to stand down. Thor answers by lunging with Mjolnir at Rodgers, only for the captain's shield to deflect the hit. Thor ultimately agrees to collaborate with the humans and accompanies them in transporting Loki to the helicarrier. Rodgers, irritated by Stark's unpredictable conduct and disregard for authority, attempts to persuade him to follow orders more attentively, sparking a competition between the two. 3. Captain America vs. Chitauri Army Avengers 2012. Rodgers is joined by Barton, Romanoff, Stark, and Thor to eliminate numerous Chitauri, but more flood from the gateway. Banner comes on a motorcycle and freely transforms into the Hulk using a unique technology. The concept of a superhero squad has permanently altered the world. The Avengers become the focus of media attention, and the public admires them as heroes, but they are also received with considerable dread and terror. 4. Captain America vs. Brock Rumlow. Captain America, Black Widow, Falcon, and Scarlet Witch hear that Brock Rumlow intends to steal a biological chemical weapon from the Institute of Infectious Diseases in Lagos, Nigeria. Rumlow tries suicide with a bomb vest after being trapped, hoping to take Rodgers with him as an act of vengeance. Maximoff manages to contain the explosion, but she loses control of her powers and accidentally destroys a nearby building, killing many Wakandan relief workers. 5. Captain America, Falcon, and Black Panther vs. Bucky Barnes highway chase. A terrorist explosion murders King T'Chaka of Wakanda in Vienna, where the Accords are to be signed. T'Challa, T'Chaka's son, pledges vengeance after security cameras identify the culprit as Bucky Barnes. Against Romanoff's suggestion, Rodgers and Wilson plan to bring Barnes in behind Ross's back. Barnes is apprehended after a tip from Carter and a long chase, while Rodgers, Wilson, and T'Challa are arrested for obstruction of justice. Six. Captain America vs. Bucky Barnes. While Barnes is imprisoned in Berlin, Rodgers and Stark continue to debate the Accords, with Rodgers almost convinced to sign until he hears of Wanda's in-house incarceration. A crate delivered by Zemo to a power grid station outside the city contains an E-bomb, which explodes and shuts down energy for the whole city, including the cameras and computers that were watching Barnes. Zemo frees Barnes by using HYDRA's trigger phrases to drive him on a frenzy. Rodgers and Wilson intervene just before Barnes is about to escape confinement, with Rodgers attempting to soothe Barnes and Wilson pursuing Zemo, who is attempting to depart the prison. Zemo flees, while Barnes nearly escapes on a chopper before being apprehended by Rodgers. In a panic, he purposefully crashes the chopper, pulling Rodgers into the adjacent river before being struck senseless by the collision. Barnes informs Rodgers that Zemo is on his way to the abandoned Hydra facility in Siberia, where he and 5 other Winter Soldiers were produced with the super soldier serum he stole in 1991. 7.
You're wrong.
And 8. Captain America's team vs. Iron Man's team airport battle. In an attempt to escape Berlin and reach Siberia before Zemo, Rodgers and his squad gather at Leipzig-Halle Airport, where they intend to board a helicopter out of the country. When the airport is evacuated due to sirens, Rodgers orders his squad to gear up and proceeds alone to a helicopter, where he is confronted by Stark and his friends. When Rodgers refuses to budge, the Avengers engage in a major battle that destroys a large portion of the airport. 9. Captain America vs. Romanoff. During the struggle, the Avengers decide to buy time for Rodgers and Barnes to reach the Quinjet by imprisoning them. Ant-Man grows enormous in his suit, tipping the scales and creating enough of a distraction to allow Rodgers and Barnes to reach an aircraft. Romanoff confronts the two, but she can't bring herself to kill them and lets them escape in Stark's Quinjet as the rest of the Avengers are apprehended. 10. Iron Man vs. Captain America and Bucky Barnes. Zemo confesses that he is a Sokovian and wishes to get revenge on the Avengers for his family's murder during Ultron's invasion. Zemo shows Stark a surveillance tape from 1991, in which Barnes is identified as the assassin who murdered Stark's parents in order to take super soldier serum vials from their car. Stark inquires about Rodgers' knowledge. Rodgers admits he had no idea Barnes had murdered them. After not receiving the desired response, Stark asks again, and Rodgers reveals that he knew they were assassinated. A disillusioned and angered Stark then turns on both of them, resulting in another brawl. Barnes' robotic arm is shot off by his suit's unibeam while attempting to smash Stark's arc reactor. Rodgers ultimately disables Stark's armor and begins to flee with Barnes. As Rodgers walks away, Stark bitterly informs him that his shield does not belong to him, but to his father, who created it. Rodgers reluctantly drops the shield and departs with Barnes, admitting that he is no longer worthy of it or the title of Captain America.